think there are different things that we can find ways to say, no, like we certainly deserve that and we're not going to compromise on that, and then other things that we can probably compromise on. But like I said, like this is the biggest moment in the history of the WNBA, and I don't want that to be forgotten. Similar, like it's important that we find a way to play this next season, and I think our fans and even everybody that has played in this league that has come before us.
Give it up for Caitlin Clark's answer. Thank you, Caitlin. This is the biggest moment the WNBA has ever seen, and it's not something that can be messed up. I feel like I have been screaming this at the top of my lungs through all of the messiness that has happened over the past 2 seasons in the WNBA. You have a moment right now in women's basketball, and specifically in the WNBA. You have a boom that we have never seen in the history of this league. Do whatever you can to not mess it up, and they've already done multiple things that is like shooting them.
There it is, the words nobody in the league office wants to hear out loud. But Caitlin Clark just said what you've been thinking for months. January 9th isn't just another deadline. It's the day the WNBA either locks in the greatest growth period in women's sports history or watches it all collapse. And here's what makes this absolutely terrifying. Both sides are acting like they have time. They don't. You were onto something when you noticed the silence from league leadership after the 2024 season ended. No celebration, no victory lap. Just radio silence while the collective bargaining agreement talks dragged into December. Many of you have been saying this for weeks in the comments. Something feels off. The momentum from the record-breaking season, the 70% ratings increase, the $2.2 billion media rights deal, it's all hanging by a thread. And that thread is about to snap. If you believe the story behind the negotiations matters more than the corporate spin, smash that like button right now. It tells us you're paying attention to what's really happening here, not just the surface-level drama. Let's filter out the noise and connect the dots. December 2024. 16 of the league's biggest names gathered in Durham for Team USA training camp. The official story, preparation for the 2026 FIBA World Cup. The real story? This was the first time since September that fans got to see Caitlin Clark on a basketball court. And the first time the media could corner these players about the CBA disaster unfolding behind closed doors. Clark hadn't played competitive basketball since September 25th when the Fever lost to Connecticut in the first round. Over 2 months of silence, and when she finally stepped back on the court, looking fluid and healthy and clearly enjoying herself, the questions weren't about her three-point range or her chemistry with Paige Buchers. They were about whether there would even be a 2026 season for her to play in. Reading between the lines of her response reveals something crucial. She didn't dodge. She didn't give a corporate non-answer. She acknowledged that players deserve what they're fighting for: full charter flights, better revenue splits, improved compensation across the board. But then she pivoted to the business reality that everyone seems to be ignoring. We need to play basketball. That's what our fans crave. That's how you make the money.
We deserve, but at the same time, like, we need to play basketball. That's what our fans crave, and that's what all of you crave as well, is you want the product on the floor. And at the end of the day, that's how you make the money, that's how you're marketable, that's what the fans get excited about, that's what the fans want to show up for. So, it's business and it's a negotiation, and there has to be compromise on both sides, and, we're starting to get down to the wire of it, and it's become really important, and obviously I want to help in any way I can, and I tried to educate myself the best I can. Obviously I can't speak to every single...
WNBA fans are so excited because Caitlin Clark is finally back on the court playing basketball, and it seems like she is 100%. She is going 5v5. Team USA is currently holding their training camp, so all the ladies will be in Durham this weekend training. As you can see the roster here: Lauren Betts, Aaliyah Boston, Cam Brink, Paige Beckers, Veronica Burton, Sonia Citron, Caitlin Clark, Kalia Copper, Chelsea Gray, Brittany Griner, Dearica Hamby, Kiki Riafen, Rakia Jackson, Brianna Jones, Kelsey Plum, Angel Reese, Juju Watkins.
Think about what she's actually saying here. She's a 22-year-old rookie who just finished the most scrutinized debut season in WNBA history. She could have stayed silent. She could have let the veterans handle the political mess. Instead, she's the one speaking the uncomfortable truth. The cost of not playing might be higher than the cost of compromise. And she's absolutely right. Let me show you why this matters so much more than the media is letting on. The 2023 WNBA season averaged around 6,500 fans per game. Respectable for the league at the time, but nothing special. Fast forward to 2024. The Indiana Fever alone averaged over 17,000 fans per game. Not the league. One team, Clark's team. That's not gradual growth. That's a seismic shift in what's commercially possible. But here's where it gets really interesting. The surge wasn't just about one player. Angel Reese brought her own fan base. Paige Bueckers is about to enter the league with massive following. Juju Watkins is right behind her. Cameron Brink was generating serious buzz before her injury. This is a generational talent wave that doesn't come around often. And the league is negotiating like they have leverage they don't actually have. You were onto something when you noticed the expansion announcements. San Francisco joining in 2025. Portland and Toronto already locked in. Expansion fees at $50 million per franchise. That's not a sign of a league struggling to stay afloat. That's a sign of a league that investors believe is about to explode. But all of that confidence is predicated on one assumption: that the product stays on the court, that Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese and Paige Bueckers are playing games that fans can actually watch. A work stoppage doesn't just pause that momentum, it kills it. And unlike the NBA, which survived lockouts because it had decades of established fan loyalty, the WNBA is still building its foundation. The fans who finally started paying attention in 2024, they're not locked in yet. They're curious, they're interested. But they're not die-hard loyalists who will wait out a labor dispute. If the 2026 season gets canceled, a huge percentage of that new audience disappears, possibly forever. Connecting the dots reveals why Clark's comments at Team USA camp weren't just about basketball. They were about survival. She declined Ice Cube's Big Three League. She turned down more lucrative overseas opportunities. She chose to build her career in the WNBA because she believes in what the league can become. But belief doesn't matter if the league implodes due to a negotiation failure neither side will back down from. The January 9th deadline isn't arbitrary. That's when the current CBA expires. After that date, if no agreement exists, the league enters uncharted territory: lockout, strike, legal battles, public acrimony. All the toxicity that comes with labor disputes in professional sports, and all of it happening at the exact moment when the WNBA finally has mainstream attention and commercial momentum. Kelsey Plum characterized the negotiations as dispiriting. She said there's a substantial gap between what players want and what the league is offering. That's diplomat speak for we're nowhere close to a deal. And with less than a month until the deadline, that gap isn't closing. It's widening. Here's what both sides are actually fighting over. And this is where it gets complicated. Players want universal charter flights for all teams, not just playoff teams. Currently, the WNBA allows charters for back-to-backs and playoff runs, but regular season travel is mostly commercial. That means elite athletes performing at the highest level are dealing with delays, layovers, cramped seats, and all the physical toll that comes with commercial air travel. The NBA has had full charter access for decades. Asking WNBA players to operate without it while generating record revenue feels increasingly indefensible. Drop a comment right now with what you think the league should prioritize. Charter flights first, revenue share, or something else entirely? Because this conversation isn't happening in boardrooms. It's happening in communities like this one, and both sides need to hear what fans actually care about. They also want a larger revenue share. The 2020 CBA doesn't have a fixed split like the NBA's 50-50 model. Instead, it uses a complex formula that guarantees players at least 50% of league revenue or a set amount a suck, whichever is higher. Players want clarity. They want a greater portion of the pie, especially now that new media deals are bringing in $200 million annually starting in 2026. Their timing makes strategic sense. The money is coming. Why not lock in better terms now? But here's where Commissioner Kathy Engelbert's position enters the equation. She's stated publicly that the WNBA has operated at a loss for most of its existence, subsidized by the NBA to the tune of tens of millions of dollars annually. Some analysts dispute these reported losses, claiming conservative accounting practices obscure true profitability, but even accepting the league's figures at face value, a fiscal reality exists that demands consideration. Players counter that investment is necessary for growth. They argue that charter flights, better salaries, and improved working conditions will yield dividends in performance, fan experience, and league expansion. And they're probably right. The question isn't whether these investments would help. The question is whether the league can afford them right now, or whether they need to wait for additional revenue growth to materialize first. We deserve. But at the same time, like we need to play basketball, that's what our fans crave, and that's what all of you crave, as well as you want the product on the court. And I've seen today that's how you make the money. That's how your marketing budget. I think what the fans get excited about, that the fans will show up for, it's business and it's innovation and and I come. We're starting to get down to the wire, and it's become a really important time. That's Caitlin Clark acknowledging the tension directly. She's not dismissing what players deserve. She's recognizing that the mechanism for getting those things requires the product to stay on the court. No games means no revenue. No revenue means no leverage for future negotiations. It's a pragmatic, business-minded perspective that's vital for these talks, especially coming from someone who has every reason to stay silent and protect her brand. Consider what's actually at stake here. The 2024 WNBA season averaged 1.2 million national viewers, up from 440,000 in 2023. Finals averaged 1.63 million. Attendance grew 48% year over year. This isn't marginal improvement. This is explosive growth directly linked to the arrival of talents like Clark, Reese, and the anticipation of Buchers and Watkins entering the league. But growth in women's sports is delicate. Media attention can vanish overnight without consistent product availability. The league already lost momentum once. The 2021 season had decent numbers, but scandals and scheduling issues in 2022 killed the upward trajectory. It took 2 full years to regain that lost ground. The WNBA cannot afford another setback like that. Not when mainstream sports media is finally paying attention. Not when casual fans are finally tuning in. Not when investors are writing $50 million checks for expansion franchises. And here's what makes Clark's position even more significant. She personally declined lucrative alternatives to stay in the WNBA. Ice Cube's Big Three League made her an offer. Overseas teams would have paid her substantially more. Endorsement deals alone could have made her financially secure without ever stepping on a WNBA court. But she chose the league. She chose to build her professional career in an organization she believes can grow into something special. When someone with that level of commitment stands up and says, "We need to find a way to play," everyone should be listening. Because she's not protecting league interests. She's not parroting corporate talking points. She's speaking as someone who has skin in the game, someone who declined more money elsewhere because she believes in what the WNBA represents.
Playing against them. Kelsey Plum off the screen, kicks to Caitlin Clark for 3. Caitlin Clark up the court. Another 3. Caitlin Clark off the screen, another 3. Her shot looks really good. There were other photos of her going around, I feel like the past couple weeks also, saying that it looks like she dropped some of the muscle that she did gain before last season. It's hard to tell. To be honest, you guys, I'm not really like body watching. We had the photos last year from Media Day when she was like flexing and all that, and you could clearly see that she had put on a lot of muscle, but it's hard to tell here, so I'm not really going to comment on it. But there were some fans that were saying it looks like she dropped some of the muscle that she put on, and a lot of people were wondering if that is why she had so so many soft tissue injuries during last season, but again, I don't know. So I'm just going to leave it at that. And here's another clip, you guys, of Caitlin Clark's signature three. She's dribbling the ball up the court, goes to her left, step.
The footage from Team USA camp reinforces why this moment matters so much. Clark draining three-pointers with that smooth release. Paige Buchers hitting a sidestep three over Clark's defense and the competitive energy between them. Angel Reese posting up. Jackie Young providing help defense. This is high-level basketball between players who barely know each other yet, operating without formal game plans and still generating excitement. This is what fans have been craving during the offseason. This is the product that generates buzz, drives ticket sales, creates viral moments on social media, and all of it evaporates if the 2026 season doesn't happen. Team USA will continue to exist. Players will still train and compete internationally. But the WNBA, the foundational league enabling these moments, would suffer an irreparable blow to its credibility and momentum. The asymmetry of potential outcomes is what should terrify both sides. If players are forced into a work stoppage, they forfeit a year of prime earning potential and halt league momentum during its most critical growth phase. If the league forces a strike by resisting reasonable demands, they risk annihilating fan interest and permanently damaging relationships with the very athletes generating revenue. Both outcomes are catastrophic. Neither side wins. The solution requires genuine mutual compromise. Players need to identify absolute non-negotiables and consider phased implementation for other demands. Perhaps full charter access isn't financially feasible by 2026, but could be committed to by 2028. Maybe the revenue share starts at a more modest split and graduates toward 50-50 over the life of the agreement. These are the kinds of creative solutions that prevent disaster. The league, for its part, must recognize that player demands are fundamentally reasonable. These are elite athletes generating substantial revenue and unprecedented interest. Treating them as a charity case or a developmental league undermines the WNBA's credibility as a serious professional organization. If you want to be taken seriously as a Premier League, you need to invest in your product accordingly. Clark's press conference was a reality check for everyone involved. She cut through negotiating tactics and public posturing to underscore what actually matters: playing basketball, growing the game, building on current momentum. Everything else is secondary to that core mission. And if the WNBA and the Players Association fail to secure that future, if they let this moment slip away due to ego or stubbornness or short-term thinking, it will be one of the gravest missteps in sports history. If you want to see how this story develops and whether the league actually finds a compromise before January 9th, make sure you're subscribed with notifications on, because the next few weeks will determine the trajectory of women's basketball for the next decade. Will they capitalize on the greatest momentum this league has ever seen? Or will they squander it with a work stoppage that alienates fans and damages the brand permanently? Hit that subscribe button. The answer is coming soon. And you don't want to miss what happens next. The game is what matters. The fans are what matter. The future of women's basketball is what matters. Caitlin Clark understands that. The question is whether everyone else will figure it out before it's too late.